Hello and welcome to our third tutorial in the series, Adding Swatches and Changing Color. In this tutorial I'll be demonstrating with the 5x7 gift voucher, and I've already placed some images on the template. Let's go ahead and focus on the Swatch Palette, and if you don't have it open you can find it under the window menu and go to Color to Swatches. I already have mine open, so I have a little check mark next to Swatches indicating I do have it open. I have it over here. I'm going to click and drag it out, and I'm going to move links over to this group. And I want to keep pages out so that we can flip back and forth between page 1 and page 2. And I'm going to take effects and hide it over here with links and drag these up. Alright, I'm going to set these aside so that we can just focus on pages and swatches. If you'll notice in the swatch palette, I do have some swatches already preset into this template. I picked these from something called a Cruller, and it's filled with different color themes you can choose from in case you need some inspiration. To open up the Cruller, go to Window, Extensions, Cruller. Once you have the Cruller open, there's a few ways that you can choose a color theme. There's a drop-down menu at the top with a few options for different color themes. You can go to Newest, Most Popular, or Highest Rated. Let's go to Most Popular. We have quite a few different color themes here to choose from, and let's try to find something that's not quite as similar to the very soft muted tones that I have in the swatch palette already. So let's select Blissful Oblivion, and you can choose any color theme you want. When you select a color theme, just click on that particular theme. It will highlight in blue, and there is a little triangle over to the right hand side of that color theme. Just click on that and go to Add Swatches to Panel. And then you'll have a few more swatches added to that swatch palette, starting with this light bluish gray color, and then it ends in pink. So we have 5 different colors that have been added to our swatches. Another way, let me close this Cruller, we don't need it open. Another way we can add swatches to our swatch panel, and if you happen to know your Pantone colors for your brand, if you had those picked already, go to the swatch palette and click on the right hand side of your panel, click on that little icon and go to New Swatches. Alright, I happen to know my one of my Pantone colors already. It's Warm Gray 11, and I also use Warm Gray 1. Let's go ahead and choose those. So under color mode, I want you to go down to Pantone Solid Uncoated. And you can scroll through the list of Pantone colors they have here, or if you happen to know the number, you can just type it in. Mine is Warm Gray. Oh, and there it popped up. I have Warm Gray 1. That's one of them. I'm going to click on that and add. And you'll notice it was just added to our swatch palette. And I also use Warm Gray 11. And I'm going to click on one and just use my arrow to scroll through those and try to find Warm Gray 11 and click Add. Alright. One more way we can add color to our swatch palette is to sample the Rgb color or even the Cmyk color from your logo in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and go into Photoshop. I happen to have my logo open already, so I'm going to use the eyedropper tool to sample on the lilac color of my logo. I already have the warm gray, so I'm just going to add this one more color. And in the Tools palette, you'll see the swatch set in the foreground. Double click on it, and the dialog box will pop up. You can see the Rgb color numbers as well as the Cmyk color numbers. I'm just going to use the Rgb color numbers of 219 for R, 196 for G, and 198 for B. Okay, let's go back into InDesign. Put in those colors and go to your swatch palette in InDesign and go to Add New Color. Change color type to Process and color mode to RGB. And the first one was 219, and I believe the next one was 198, and the last one was 196. Good. And then once you have those in, just click Add and Done. If you ever need to change your RGB color to CMYK, just double click on each swatch and go from color mode RGB to CMYK. And you can actually multiple select all of these, double click, and go from RGB to CMYK. And it will change all of your swatches from RGB to CMYK. Let's start with the background on page 2. And I just scrolled down to find page 2, but you can also go to the Pages panel and click on page 2. And then I'm going to click on our background color. And if I click on the fill box in our Swatch palette, there's a fill and a stroke. I want to click on the fill, which will fill up this entire graphic frame with a color. I have a kind of lavender color already selected, which is obviously looks a lot lighter than the swatch that's shown right here. What I have done is lower the tint of that color to 10% of this lavender. I'll bring it back to 100 to show you. The color is just way too dark for what I was trying to achieve in this background, and I wanted to use that color but use a lighter version of it, so I just lowered the tint to 10%. I'm going to go back to 10 and click return. It's really that simple. I'm going to go back to 100 because I want to actually change the color, and let's select this peach color that was added to our swatch panel from the cruller. And at 100%, it's really, really bright. I'm not really loving it. I'm going to lower the tint of that. So in my swatch panel, I'm going to go to tint, highlight the 100%, and lower it to 25. And that's a little softer, but now I see that there's really not a lot of contrast between my middle image, so I think maybe I will choose a different color. Maybe this bright pink. Well, it actually kind of looks purple. Let's try that pink is still too bright, and maybe the yellow. Nope, not enough contrast, I don't like it. Let's try this blue, I kind of like that. And at 100%, there's just not enough contrast. I need to really lighten that up. Let's go to 25% tint, and that looks pretty good. I like that. And we want to change our text, so we need to go over to our Tools palette and select the Type tool. And bring your mouse over till you'll see the cursor in front of the text, and click and drag over to select all your text. And in your swatch panel, I actually have 2 different colors selected in this text, and so on my swatch panel I have a little question mark because it can't tell you exactly which color it is because there's 2 selected. So let's go ahead and change that color to this warm gray 11. And I've picked a color that actually is pretty decent, pretty dark in comparison to the background, but I think maybe my background is still a little too dark. So I'm going to go to my selection tool, which is the black arrow at the top of my Tools palette, and move on over to the background graphic frame. Click on that, and I'm going to drop the tint down to 15. Alright, that looks a little bit better. And now I'm going to change the color of the script font right here in a different text frame. So I need to go to the Tools palette, click on the Type tool, and select this text, and change it to warm gray. And there's also a bit of disclaimer here. I'm going to click and select that text as well and change it to the warm gray. And this expiration date, I think I want to bring a little bit of attention to that. Maybe I will make that, let's see, that blue color, and keep that at 100% and see what that looks like. Oh, yeah, that looks really nice. I think maybe I'll do the same thing to the script font, so I'll select that and change that to the blue at 100% tint. And I like that, it looks very pretty. And if you'll notice, I'm going to zoom in on here, there is a stroke I added to put a line where you would handwrite the name of the person you were sending this gift voucher to. So I'm going to go ahead and change the color of the stroke, and I'm going to select it. And in our swatch panel, you'll notice that now the stroke is selected. You need to click on that to bring it to the foreground. And now we can change that color as well. And I'm going to change that to the warm gray. Or maybe that blue color so you actually see it, something change in that. Let me hit Command-0 to zoom out. And now we've changed the colors on all the on the back side of our gift voucher. There's still a lot more that I need to cover in this particular tutorial. So let's go ahead and start watching the second half of Adding Swatches and Changing Color Tutorial 3.